a value that all of us strive for is the value called happiness. Everybody would like to reach the state of living a happy life. In the West, we even have the idea, the United States at least has the idea of pursuing the pursuit of, in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We want to pursue happiness because that is the final goal for everybody. Everybody would like to live a life of happiness, would like to be a happy person. You don't even have to ask a person why they want to be happy. It's just so evident. However, many people in the West connect, Western culture connects happiness with fun, pleasure, thrills. Those are cultural ideas, having fun, being involved in thrills, a thrilling life, a pleasurable life. These are all part of our Western culture. The problem over here is when we connect them with happiness. We think that if I have a lot of fun, I'll be very happy. If I have some fun, I'll be somewhat happy. If I have pleasure, I will be happy. If I have a lot of pleasure, I'll be even happier, right? There's absolutely, in reality that is, there's absolutely no connection between the two. And the basic definition between happiness and fun is very different. There's a fellow by the name of Dennis Prager in LA who has written at length an article on this subject, and he says that fun and pleasure, you have that as long as the object of the fun and pleasure is there, as long as it's available. When it's gone, it's gone. Many times you see that when you play with a child and you throw the child up in the air, right? So the child will right away say again and again and again, because after the child goes up in the air into your arms again, the pleasure's over, the fun is over, the thrill is over, right? Whereas happiness is a state of being, right? And we can't confuse the two. Of course, everybody agrees that part of our culture is having fun, having pleasure, having a thrill, and that's okay. There's no question about it, as long as we don't confuse it with what the goal is. The goal for the Jewish person should really be the fact the person's able to have a change of pace, to have some fun, sort of relax from work. It's like a chilling out for a while, because life is stressful. Everybody agrees, and the Torah has nothing against that, even though some people tell me that the Torah doesn't have a word for fun. We use the word kaif in modern Hebrew, which they say is Arabic, actually. But nonetheless, it's all okay. It's all something that is, can be appreciated, and people should take the time out for that if they need it, if they need to relax, and so on and so forth. But we should never confuse it with bringing happiness. Dennis Prager actually says that he interviews movie stars on his radio show because he lives in LA, and he says that the movie stars are the greatest proof for me, and he says I have tremendous hakaras hatov to them. I appreciate them being there because they are the proof, basically, that happiness has absolutely nothing to do with fun and pleasure. Because movie stars have the most fun and the most pleasure in the world, and yet when it comes to writing their memoirs, they always seem to write about how depressing of a life they lived if they haven't committed suicide before, right? Or they've gone into rehab 3 or 4 times, right? So why are people with so much fun and pleasure going into rehab, and why are they so depressed? And the answer seems to be that one has nothing to do with the other. Ramosha Feinstein makes a comment in one of his responsa where he talks about the idea of what he calls, he doesn't have actually a Jewish word for it, so he calls it having a good time, right? He has the word good time. He says, in America, people have enough time on their hands to have what we call a good time. And he says that people should not be misled by this and become a pleasure-seeking society, because that's what it can lead to. He says animals try to avoid pain. They only want pleasure. But human beings should really look for something more than pleasure. They should look for that which will bring happiness. Happiness generally is defined, Dr. Tal Ben Shachar, for instance, and I think Dr. Twersky, both say that happiness has to do with living a meaningful life. Something meaningful in your life leads to happiness. And this is very important for us to realize that that's what brings happiness. It's not searching for happiness, the pursuit of happiness that will bring happiness. It's the pursuit of something meaningful, like doing chesed, like kiyum mitzvahs, something that is very human and very meaningful for the person who is doing it, and avoiding pain. Ramosha Feinstein says is no different really than an animal. An animal wants pleasure. That's what they live their life for, and avoid pain. When in reality, pain a lot of times is the prerequisite for a fulfilling and happy life. Example that Dennis Prager actually gives is having children, right? He says nobody has children because it's a lot of fun and it's thrilling and it's very pleasurable. People never say, I had 2 kids, but I decided to have more because they're such fun, right? That idea of having children is because it gives meaning to someone's life, to create a human being, to raise a human being, to raise a normal human being. The challenge, and of course, that includes a lot of the pain in the Tsar Gidl Banim, right? That's something that we have to realize, that in our society we try to avoid pain and just go for pleasure, when in reality, by avoiding pain, we're really avoiding happiness. A lot of times pain is there as a prerequisite for growth. Growth can have a lot of pain in it. Creating a proper marriage, a shalom bayis, can be very painful. Raising children can be very painful, but at the same time, it's very meaningful. And because it's very meaningful, it really brings to our goal. Our goal is happiness. So here we have Western culture talking about fun, and we can partake in that. Pleasure, thrills, and yet we have to be careful, in this case, not to confuse it with happiness. The idea of happiness, as we said, means limud Torah. It means kiyum mitzvahs. You're growing through kiyum mitzvahs, doing chesed, right? The real true values of Judaism, those lead to a happy and fulfilling life. The culture that we have, like I said at the beginning, the cultural values that we have can all be appropriate. I don't say every one, but they can all be appropriate. But the most important thing, as we said, was the context. How are we looking at that cultural value? Are we looking at it as pleasure on its own, or are we going to take pleasure and put it in the correct context? And that's what we always have to be aware of.